Hi, I'm Joanne Magley, and you're watching Volusia Magazine. With over 50,000 miles of rivers and streams, 7,800 lakes, and 4,000 square miles of estuaries, Florida has an abundance of surface waters used for a variety of purposes. Over 90% of Florida's drinking water supply is dependent on aquifers. Those are underground water storage areas that collect water which seeps from the surface. However, there are numbers of factors that threaten our water quality. So today, we have a panel of experts to talk about the subject of water quality and how everybody has a role. Thank you for joining us for this edition of Volusia Magazine. I'm Joanne Magley, the Community Information Director, and today we are talking about water quality. So I'd like to introduce our guests. We have Michael Ulrich, the Director of Water Resources and Utilities. We have Ginger Adair, Director of Environmental Management, and Judy Grimm, Director of Road and Bridge. Thank you all for being here today.
Pleasure.
So to start off, I'd like you each to describe your areas here with Volusia County government as it pertains specifically to water quality. And Ginger, we'll start with you.
Well, great. Thank you. So environmental management, part of our mission is to protect the unique resources that we have here in Volusia County. And so we protect water quality in a number of ways. One of those ways is that we have about 90 water quality monitoring stations throughout the county, surface waters and our springs. And we've been actually collecting that data for almost 30 years now. And so those are monthly or quarterly sampling events. And that data is important because it's what the state uses to set water quality targets. So that's one of our programs. The other ways that we protect water quality and prevent pollution are through our ordinances. And so we have ordinances that deal with where wells can be placed in the county. We have watering restrictions, fertilizer restrictions, and we protect our natural resources. So we protect wetlands, which are really sort of nature's water filters. So it's sort of our first line of defense. We also do lots of public education related to water quality and how folks can prevent pollution.
So Mike, how does your area work on water quality initiatives?
Well, in a variety of ways. Certainly as the population continues to increase throughout the region, because it's a very desirable location, we're focused a lot on both water supply and water quality. Our division is responsible for 11 water systems throughout the county. Of course, our main objectives are supplying safe drinking water to the 40,000 customers that we serve, as well as also in treating that wastewater to environmentally safe standards. So in a lot of ways, as this region continues to grow, we're going to continue to find ways to practice efficiency and conservation. We're going to focus on additional water supplies outside of our spring sheds, and of course, as we treat our wastewater, we're going to be looking for ways to reduce nutrient pollutants to our waterways.
Okay, and Judy, Road and Bridge, how is Road and Bridge involved in water quality?
Well, included in Road and Bridge is also stormwater management. Anytime that you construct a road, you're always constructing a piping system, retention ponds. All that are elements of a roadway system. In addition, Road and Bridge maintains all of the unincorporated stormwater system in the county. We're very involved in water quality. Your first line of defense on being able to protect our water bodies is with maintenance. And that's where we're primarily focused on maintenance. We also do the capital projects, improvement projects for stormwater. So we manage the stormwater utility as an element of Road and Bridge.
So back in 2004, after the County Council hosted a water quality workshop with the cities, the Council adopted a resolution setting forth goals to improve water quality. And then in 2015, the Council adopted a water quality plan. So talk about the goals and the actions of that plan. Ginger, we'll start with you.
Okay, well, so in 2014, it was becoming clear that our surface waters and our groundwater was increasingly polluted, and so we have some challenges there. So the council convened that workshop with the cities. Really, the purpose was to talk about our priority water bodies and the challenges that they face and what we can do and what we have been doing to protect them. And so that was a really great forum. We got lots of good information from experts throughout the county and throughout the state. And that resulted in the council adopting a resolution that set forth specific goals to protect water quality. From there, in 2015, we all worked together to create an action plan. And so this plan really identified, based on the council's goals, the specific actions that we can take in Volusia County to protect water quality, remove pollution, and work together with the cities and the state agencies. And so several specific goals came out of that plan. Improving stormwater treatment was one of the goals, and that's something that Judy's group is focusing on. Also, one of the things was to develop what's called a reasonable assurance plan for the Mosquito Lagoon, and that is a document that would identify ways to reduce pollution in that water body in anticipation of future state regulation. And so that's also a project that Judy's been working on. Another goal was to expand sanitary sewer and reduce reliance on septic tanks. Volusia County has over 90,000 septic tanks, and those all contribute to nutrient pollution in some way. Obviously, closer to the water body you are, the more contribution that you have to that water body. But we're looking at how can we reduce that number. Also, reducing nutrients in wastewater discharge. That's something that Mike's been really successful in doing at the wastewater treatment plant. Providing education and outreach, and that has primarily been what environmental management has focused on, and we can talk a little bit about some of those programs. And then lastly, to improve monitoring and research. And so we've been working to identify where we have good data and where we don't have good data, and expanding our network. So since 2015, we've all been working toward all of those goals, and we've really been making good progress. And there's lots of work still to be done, but we're moving forward.
Well, let's talk specifically about some of those goals. Judy, she mentioned one of the goals that you're working on. Expand a little bit on that.
As far as the projects that came up, the water quality plan, specifically the three, I would say that most significant ones that I'm working on are the reasonable assurance plan for Mosquito Lagoon. That was a collaborative effort with the cities of Edgewater, New Smyrna Beach, Oak Hill, and obviously the county, and we also had the Department of Transportation as a partner as well. And that was basically a plan that we've been working on for the last 2 years to determine what are the pollutant sources in Mosquito Lagoon, and how we can be proactive to reduce those loadings before it becomes an impaired water body. At the time that we were in the 2015 water quality plan development, Mosquito Lagoon was not declared impaired with a total maximum daily load. I know that we have a lot of acronyms in stormwater. So instead of the Department of Environmental Protection doing a basin management action plan, which is what they do when the water body is declared impaired, our county council as well as the city commissions did not want to wait for that, and wanted to get ahead of that regulatory requirement. And so we have developed the reasonable assurance plan, which we're very close to completing, and out of that has come a number of projects. There's approximately $15 million worth of projects recommended that will be a joint effort between the city's DOT and the county to try to improve the water quality in Mosquito Lagoon. Others are St. Johns River. There are several segments of the St. Johns River that are declared impaired, and so we have been working through the Basin Management Action Plan process and also developing projects for those, as well as some of the other priority water bodies we've worked on Gemini Springs. Stormwater is not a primary loading for Blue Springs, but we're obviously, looking at that water body. And of course the Halifax River, which is now part of the Indian River Lagoon. So we're also involved in projects to improve water quality in those locations as well.
Let's couple years back, there was an algae bloom further south, not in this county. Could something like that happen here in Volusia County, and how are the steps that we're doing now hopefully things that will prevent something like that from happening?
Well, absolutely. I mean, we did see some bloom conditions in Volusia County. You know, in 2011, there was what was called the super bloom in the Indian River Lagoon. It was primarily south of us, but we see those conditions here. And so whatever we can do to prevent nutrients from entering the system will reduce the likelihood that we'll have those catastrophic blooms like they're experiencing to the south. We don't have those inputs like from Lake Okeechobee like they do in the southern parts of the Indian River Lagoon. But the system is stressed because of the amount of nutrients that are in it. And so I kind of liken it to when you sort of have a cold, or you have an immune system that's not as able to withstand some assault, right? And so it's almost like a chronic stress in the system. And so then if something like a freeze happens or unusual weather conditions, those blooms tend to happen. And so to the extent that we can get the nutrients out of the system, then we're better able to withstand those acute problems because our chronic stress is a little bit lower.
So speaking on nutrients, Mike, here's where you come in. Talk about the water plant and the upgrades at the facility, because that has really resulted in a reduction of nutrients.
Yeah, most happy to. This past spring, we essentially completed the improvements at our water reclamation facility in DeBerry. And along that process, we've reduced nutrients by about 27,000 pounds as a result of going to advanced wastewater treatment processes. In doing so, we also managed to reduce nutrients by closing one of our existing wastewater plants within the Blue Spring spring shed and moving that flow from that particular plant over to the new facility that has been upgraded, and we've expanded our capacity as well. Those results have had tremendous benefit to Blue Spring. There's still plenty more to be done in that area. Wastewater is one element of pollutants in the spring, affecting both Blue as well as Gemini. Septic tanks are another major issue. Fertilizer is another one. Agricultural practices. These are all inputs into that contribute to impacting the springs as a whole. But we're particularly proud of this project. It was a great effort. Just this past week, we've picked up our second award of the year.
Congratulations.
The major trade industry and water and resources national publication has named it among its 2018 top projects. Last month, our wastewater system was awarded by the Florida Rural Water Association as a wastewater system of the year. So these are significant projects recognized for the contributions to protecting the springs, something that I think the council can be very proud of. Especially it was a cornerstone project within the water quality plan, which council authorized and adopted back in 2015.
And as I understand it, the goals for that facility, you exceeded the goals for reduction of nitrogen.
Yeah, and you know, the design was very good. We had a tremendous team of operators and engineers that worked through this process. It was designed to get a certain reduction in nutrients. We're currently exceeding our expectations with that, which, you know, again, is a considerable benefit to the springs.
All right, well, we have to take a quick break. We'll come back and talk more about water quality and what all of our residents and visitors can do to help the project. Stay with us.
It's a good idea for private well owners to test their water at least annually. Most water in private wells is naturally clean and ready to drink. But sometimes, like during a major storm, chemicals and bacteria can leak into groundwater. These contaminants could make you sick, and they can only be detected with lab tests. Fortunately, routine water testing is simple and inexpensive, and it's the best way to protect your family's health. Learn more at floridahealth.gov/wellstest.
Welcome back. You're watching Volusia Magazine, and we are talking water quality. Our guests today, Ginger Adair, Judy Grimm, and Michael Ulrich, all with Volusia County government in various capacities. Mike, you're the Director of Water Resources and Utilities, and we were talking before the break about water quality and how growth can affect water quality, and you were saying how you can't stop growth. People obviously love to come to Florida and move to Volusia County, but
Right.
you plan for growth. So talk about how planning for growth helps to improve or maintain water quality.
Sure. You know, probably the biggest challenge that the entire state of Florida really faces, you know, because not only is this area desirable, but pretty much the entire state of Florida is you know, we have a finite water supply in terms of our aquifer, and so as more people come, you know, that demand will continue to increase. So there's a lot of measures that need to be considered when you're planning. You have to be prepared to meet that future demand, but at the same time, you need to be practicing water conservation, many of the measures which Ginger is practicing right now. And of course, the utilities have to focus on efficiencies. Really, at this point in time, every drop counts. And so, you know, other ways that you're trying to do is not only dealing with the potable water supply or the drinking water, is you're looking to find ways to recycle that wastewater that's being generated. And so, you know, as I've talked mentioned before in some of the other presentations, you know, people's perceptions are thinking about wastewater in the future. You know, a wastewater facility is much more of a water resource recovery facility at this point in time. This is water that's coming into the plant and needs to be recycled. It can be used for reclaimed water to irrigate, to offset people's demand for water as they to use on their lawns. It can be used for industrial purposes. There's a number of ways to do that. So expanding the reclaimed water supply is equally important. We have projects that we're working on there, you know, in key areas where we anticipate growth is going to occur. So there's a number of ways to do it. Efficiencies, as I mentioned before, education of people's use of water. Because one of the other future challenges is that there will always be water available. The problem is that the cheap water is gone or going away. And that is, when you look to additional sources of water, it will become more expensive. So hence it's really more a matter of you know, being efficient and conserving where possible, using the drinking water supply in the most practical use. And so that's more or less where we're going. Many years to go.
And Judy Grimm, Director of Road and Bridge, you deal with stormwater. Stormwater runoff is an issue when it comes to water quality. So talk about the concern with stormwater runoff and how your division tries to improve the system that we have in place.
Certainly. When I began my career 30 plus years ago, I won't say exactly how many, the focus of stormwater at that time was really on flood protection. Water quality was a very small element of all of your projects at the time. In the 30 plus years that I've been doing this, the focus has really shifted. Not saying that we don't still have, you know, issues with flooding, especially with sea level rise facing us, but there is an increased focus on water quality. And obviously stormwater, you know, as it runs across the lawns and streets, and it does pick up pollutants and the sediments, and it has, you know, been noted as being one of the primary focuses for all of the impaired water bodies. Like I said, it's less of a focus for springs, but for surface waters, it's a primary focus, both from stormwater runoff and from what they call base flow. You know, the water that's always in your ditches even after, you know, a storm event or in between storm events. So what we do in my division is that we obviously look at maintenance. As I mentioned before, maintenance is the most cost-effective way that you can remove pollutants from getting into the downstream water bodies, and that's with street sweeping, backing out the storm sewers, as well as cleaning your roadside ditches, cleaning out your retention ponds, and doing improved maintenance. That really is one of the primary focuses for my division. In addition, we do capital projects. And as I mentioned, the primary focus now on capital projects is water quality. And so we will go in, and there's a lot of new technology that is, constantly, every time I go to a stormwater conference, I'm the president of the Florida Stormwater Association, and at these conferences we get to hear the latest and greatest technology, and that we're able to utilize that. We have two baffle boxes, two stormwater treatment boxes going into Gemini Springs right now. One just got set yesterday, as a matter of fact. And those are water quality treatment boxes. They have a media in them called biological activated media that actually removes the nitrogen and phosphorus from the water as it flows through the box. And that's just an example of one of the water quality projects that we're involved with.
And you also do a lot of work with developers. Talk about how you work with them to help them reduce their pollutants and their possibility for flooding impacts from whatever projects they might be doing.
Yes, we certainly have regulatory requirements, both at the county with its land development code, and then we also follow the St. Johns River Water Management District and the Florida Department of Environmental Protection. We follow those regulatory requirements and working with developers. And once again, there are some innovative designs, and we try to have that included in our work with developers and encourage them that may spend a little bit more money up front, but the long-term benefits are great.
So Ginger, early on we talked about some of the goals, and education is one of the goals and one of the primary ways you want to teach people about water quality, why it's important, and things that residents and visitors can do to help improve water quality. So what are some key points that you try to educate the public about?
Well, I think the first thing is that, people think that it's a huge issue, right? And I can't really do anything about it, right? Water quality is such a big topic, and what I do is not really helpful, and that's not really the case. And so what we try to teach people is that each one of us in this county is polluting water just by being here. Everybody that flushes the toilet is contributing to the pollution problem, among other things. So what we try to teach people is everybody's contributing and everybody can do something, right? And even if what you do is small, those are cumulative. And so that if you make some changes in your behavior, that really will help the water quality. And so we have a number of programs that we promote. One of them is our really fun fertilizer education program. So the county has a fertilizer ordinance that says you cannot apply nitrogen or phosphorus fertilizer from June through September. And that's because that's when it rains every day, right? And so if you put fertilizer on your grass, the rain's going to come that afternoon, and that's going to get washed into the storm system, or it's going to percolate through the sandy soils into our aquifer. And so we try to educate folks about that ordinance in a fun way. And so we have a campaign called Be Floridian Now, and it's really about stop spending time taking care of your yard and go have fun and enjoy the water bodies that we're trying to protect. And so we have lots of information about fertilizer. We also try to help people understand about watering restrictions, when you can water your lawn, when you can't water your lawn, how you can plant a yard that requires less water. And we really just try to get out into the community and bring these issues forward through community events and different festivals and those sorts of things. Our latest thing is we're working on a campaign that is funded through the state. It's a 3-year campaign that will help folks understand wastewater and the impact that wastewater has, in particular on springs. And so I think a lot of people, you flush the toilet and that's the last thing you think about it. And some of us pay a bill to the utility company, and some of us have a septic tank, but at any rate, we feel like our job is done, right? And so we're trying to teach folks what happens after you flush, and what are the nutrients that go into the system, and what are the options that homeowners may have. And so that will be an ongoing campaign. We're just getting started on that, but that ought to be really interesting to help folks understand how that impacts groundwater and springs.
And I think going along with that, the water conservation, we encourage people to maybe switch out shower faucets shower heads that might be a little too strong or use a little too much water. Shut the water off when you're in between brushing your teeth. Little things like that, like you say, that make a a cumulative effect if everybody just kind of pitched in a little bit.
That's right. Our Green Volusia program specifically deals with sort of those sustainability things. How can we conserve water? And when we're out in the community, we offer low flow fixtures that they can add to their tap, or we have shower timers so that people can see, oh geez, I'm taking a 10-minute shower, wow, you know. So we do have lots of little things that we give away at public events, and I know Mike has some incentives in the utilities for people to switch over to appliances that use less water. But really it is all about what little things can each of us do to use less water, because it is a finite resource, and then to pollute less into the system. Because don't forget, here in Volusia County, we drink water from the Floridan aquifer. We have what's called a sole source aquifer. So what goes into the ground here in Volusia County is what comes out of the ground in our groundwater pumps. And so we really are drinking the water that we're polluting. And so Mike's folks do a great job of cleaning up that water so that it's really good when it hits your tap. But the more we can prevent from going into that system, the better off we all are.
So in our final couple minutes here, let's talk about water quality and going forward. Mike, we'll start with you. What's next?
You know, there's a number of initiatives throughout this county among various cities, and as well as the county, in trying to deal with this. And I think that's probably one of the most important messages at this point in time, is that, you know, water is not, you know, restricted to just governmental boundaries or municipal boundaries. Water connects all of us in terms of our public health, in terms of our quality of life. Tourism, recreation, economic development. All these things are key factors that you know, all, you know, industries and just the general public, as well as the governmental agencies, looking for regional solutions. Quite often, you know, we find ourselves partnering not only with the state and the water management district, but also a nearby city in addressing some of these you know, these scaled projects to basically, you know, pool these resources, because as Ginger mentioned earlier, you know, nobody can do it all, but everyone can do something. And I think that you'll continue to see more of these types of initiatives in supply, in protection of the environmental resources, and you know, hopefully in the future, you know, we'll see more state dollars, you know, coming in to do this. State's done a pretty good job over the last couple of years in starting to pass laws that will protect our springs, which we have 3 of the 30 Florida outstanding springs in this county. So you know, it's a major resource that this community really needs to protect.
Ginger, what's next?
Well, we're working really hard on the 3 outstanding Florida springs. The rules are coming out shortly that will govern what we all need to do to protect the water quality of the springs. We're going to continue with our education efforts, absolutely, and we'll keep implementing those sustainability initiatives that all work together to protect water quality.
And Judy, any last words?
Well, I agree with Mike in that we'll be working collaboratively with other agencies in the cities and the county for more regional focused projects. We're finding that get a little more bang for your buck whenever you can do a large project rather than each of the individual cities or the county doing the small projects. And so I see us working more together and trying to totally protect this amazing waters that we have in this county.
Well, I'd like to thank you all for being our guests today here on Volusia Magazine. And if people want more information, we have lots of information on our county's website, volusia.org, and they can click the various services, environmental management, road and bridge, water resources and utilities, and read more about water quality and the goals going forward. So Michael Ulrich, Director of Water Resources and Utilities, Ginger Adair, Director of Environmental Management, and Judy Grimm, Director of Road and Bridge. Thank you again for being here today.
Thank you, Joan.
Thanks.
And thank you for watching this edition of Volusia Magazine. We'll see you next time.